and welcome to Animal Eyes, the pleasure and power of animal persona in poetry and prose.
I'm Paul Koniecki. I dream of teaching poems that highlight kindness to people and animals as the key to saving life on Earth.
And I'm Cindy Hill, an environmental advocate and poet in Middlebury, Vermont. I dream of rewilding my writing and the world.
On residency in Rome this past winter, we found common inspiration in animal muses, which led us to collaborate to animalize our graduate lecture.
In this lecture, we'll start with some thoughts on animalized persona and narration, explore 7 powers and pleasures of writing in an animal persona, walk through 3 points of view to write through animal eyes, and finish off by encouraging you to experiment and engage with animal perspectives to enliven your writing and make the writing process more enjoyable. Our handout essay has many more examples and in-depth analyses, and we hope you have a chance to take a look at it to inspire a summer of animalized writing.
Persona is the offspring of empathy and self-doubt. Persona may very well be an antidote to procrastination and narrowness, prejudice and hate. Persona is, if you dare to make it so, me clearly seeing you and you clearly seeing me. Adopting an animalized persona requires us to blend observation and imagination with the experiences of the non-human beings we are embodying, creating, observing, witnessing. As a result, we can develop a deep sense of connection with different perspectives, enabling us by extension to more fully understand and appreciate the complexities of the human condition. Think of Robin Williams' character in Dead Poets Society, Mr. Keating, as he commands his scholars to stand on their desks to break the mind-numbing sameness of their normal viewpoint. Our clarion cry, our carpe diem whisper is to animalize, to have creative writing that soars with unexpected sensory input is a joy and proof of caring for the planet and a craft tool to be kept sharp with frequent use. As writers, we must hold our secrets to the light and in the name of readers everywhere, smash our vulnerabilities and leapfrog our previously self-imposed limitations. Being lost in a piece of writing or experiencing writer's block is very real and very scary. Whether it is time to create or time to revise, one way to effectively leave the stress of the self and relax and find that writer's groove, that slipstream, that God moment, that flow can be through persona, and even more so through an animal persona. To write is to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable is to risk exposure and loss. Writing and taking on the label of being a writer is a perfect metaphor for an animal in the wild, leaving or escaping its burrow or den or cave or pit or hutch and venturing into the wild. It is simultaneously self-evident, heartfelt, charming, vulnerable, and terrifying. As writers, are we the chicken, the coop, the fox, or the egg? When pulling out the craft tool of animalization, a daring mind would challenge itself to write from each of those multiple, unique, story-enriching perspectives. Try breaking your writing apart, then sealing it back together again with the gold of animal persona. By immersing ourselves in the thoughts, emotions, and experiences of an animal persona, we can bridge the gap between individuals and cultures, fostering a greater appreciation for the diversity and complexity of life on Earth. Imagine what Jonathan, the 190-year-old giant Seychelles tortoise, would have to say if, appearing in your work, he was to offer some wisdom, a dad joke, an insult, or a poem.
Thanks, Paul. The chicken, the coop, the fox, or the egg? I am looking forward to hearing that story from you. So moving on to narrative, writing through animal eyes is a form of unnatural narrative, that is, a story not narrated by a human. Unnatural narratives defy the mimetic reductionism of anthropocentric storytelling. In other words, humans are not the only things on this planet with stories to tell. Animalized narrative may somewhat resemble science fiction or fantasy fiction, which includes points of view from space aliens, robots, giants, ogres, and other fictional non-human beings. Animal points of view, however, create an organic or natural, unnatural narrative. Animals are real. Rather than providing a vehicle for escape from our ordinary world, animalized narrative encourages us to engage more deeply in our world, learning about ourselves and the very context of our lives in the process. I've included some great resources on unnatural narratives in the handout, so do take a look at those. Animal-driven narratives can follow the same paths through story as human-driven narratives, but they also invite more organic plot structures. Rabbits and eagles do not follow roads in their daily peregrinations. Mice cover a small, predictable territory while mountain lions wander extremely large ranges. And geography for the squirrel is as much a matter of the vertical as it is the horizontal. So stories incorporating their perspectives may have differently framed settings or perceptions of time than those told from a human point of view. Plot paths may spiral, branch, meander, follow a migration or a metamorphosis. Imagine a story told in the length of time it takes for a snail to get from the base of a leaf to its gently bending tip. Some of you may be familiar with Jane Allison's book, Spiral Meander Explode, which I highly recommend for exploring organic narratives. The world building of animalizing is not one of external construction, but rather one of going deeper into the world we already know. A cracked boulder in a park from the gecko's eyes is a mosaic of warmth and coolness, dryness and shade, snug, safe places, and exposed open spaces. Imagine how that gecko feels when skittering through each of these micro ecotones. Consider then how that gecko's experience translates back to a scene when writing about human characters. You can use animalized writing studies based on close field observation, like watching a gecko in the park, to create rich metaphors for human emotions and behavior.
Thank you, Cindy. My goodness, your elevation of analysis and your laser focus is it's both daunting and inspiring. Thank you. Thank you. Now that we've given you an overview of how an animal persona enhances your writing and inspired you to enliven your narrative structure with an animal perspective, we're going to walk you through 7 powers and pleasures of animalizing your writing. We'll be going through these one by one and giving you an example of each. And there are many more examples in our handout essay. These are the reasons to animalize, the things which an animal persona is uniquely positioned to bring to bear in your manuscript. 1. Explore senses other than human sight. 2. Provide an emotionally detached view of a scene. 3. Get into places your human characters simply cannot go. 4. Explore different ways of thinking. 5. Insert a sense of whimsy or wonder. 6. Enhance concern for environmental degradation. 7. Invoke the dark or the divine. All right. 1. Explore senses other than human sight. Animals enjoy an extraordinary set of senses that allow them to navigate and thrive in their respective habitats. Turtles, for example, are particularly adept at hearing low frequencies. The following poem, written by me, follows this fact to a variety of surreal conclusions. Soon after his reincarnation as an alligator snapping turtle, Cesare Pavese hears the singing of his mother's voice and answers to the wails of the living and the dead. Her body is a harpsichord or a gill. At the bottom of an opus is a lake spring, and she is a freshwater maestro. My dreams are sound. Beneath the surface of a glacier is fjord awareness. From her left eye, the keys to Debussy pound percussively. Migration is the bends, bubbles in your bloodstream if you rise too quickly to the surface of a wake and advocate for the legitimacy of remembrance. We laugh and dance. I whisper, Debussy's first name was Achille. The hem of my mother's dress sounds like tadpoles laughing as it waves at the mouths of passing fish. A lady who may or may not be her passerby twin turns a muskellunge into a tuning fork. The world under the world is as happy as the world over the world is sad. She turns into an American kestrel again and flies above the moon. While sight is the dominant sense in most poetry and prose, animals rely on a range of senses for survival and adaptation. Atwood's pig song references smell, taste, sound, and even touch to create a poem from an animal's perspective. Hearing plays a crucial role, allowing animals like bats and dolphins to navigate and communicate through sound waves. Ferlinghetti's dog poem captures the playful nature of sounds. Smell is vital for animals like dogs and bears, helping them find food, detect predators, and identify mates. Taste is significant in food search, with herbivores discerning between plant species and carnivores evaluating prey freshness. Touch aids animals in interaction, hunting, and self-defense, such as a cat's whiskers. Some animals possess extraordinary senses like electroreception, used by sharks and electric eels to navigate and locate prey. Appreciating these senses enriches our understanding of the natural world and animal evolution. Oh, Koniecki's Ode to the Maggot reminds us of the crucial role they play in the circle of life. Each opportunity taken to animalize one's writing is rewarded many, many times over.
Providing an emotionally detached view of a scene, wielding the physical perspective of a detached animal can convey the actions of the scene without using an emotionally involved character as the narrator. In his dystopian science fiction novella, The Green Brain, Frank Herbert, who you probably know as the author of Dune, uses a brain like creature composed of insects to comment from a detached perspective on environmentally destructive human habits like consumerism and capitalism, things which make no sense at all if you look at them from the perspective of emotionless reason. This quote from The Green Brain. The humans were very difficult to understand with their gods and their accumulation patterns. Business was what the books called their accumulation pattern, but the sense of it eluded the brain. Money cannot be eaten, it stored no apparent energy, and it is a poor building material. Wattle and daub type of houses of the poorest humans have more substance. Still, the humans grubbed for it. The stuff had to be important. It had to be every bit as important as their God concept, which appeared to be something like a supreme integration whose substance and location could not be defined. Most disturbing. Somewhere, the brain felt, there must be a thought mode to make these matters understandable, but the pattern escaped it. In Shelby Van Pelt's remarkable novel, Remarkably Bright Creatures, the octopus Marcellus also functions as a realistic, thus unflattering, mirror of human behavior. This from the octopus Marcellus. If there is one topic of conversation humans never exhaust, it is the status of their outdoor environment. And for as much as they discuss it, their incredulity is, well, incredible. That preposterous phrase, can you believe the weather we're having? How many times have I heard that? 1,910 to be exact. 1.5 times a day on average. Tell me again about the intelligence of humans. They cannot even manage to comprehend predictable meteorological events. Imagine if I were to stride over to my neighbors, the sea jellies, and while shaking my mantle with disbelief, make a comment such as, can you believe these bubbles these tanks are putting out today? Preposterous. The detached animal point of view can also help the narrative move swiftly past an emotional scene. A pigeon stopping atop a park lamp post to watch a couple screaming at one another on a park bench provides a time efficient, effective, yet quirky way to insert a breakup into a novel without spelling out the whole circular, sad but predictable dialogue.
3. Get into places your human characters can't go. Animals hold a myriad of physical abilities that allow them to reach places that are inaccessible to humans. Oh, The Fish by Elizabeth Bishop is a classic genius example of the close examination of our underwater brethren. Here's The Fish by Elizabeth Bishop. I caught a tremendous fish and held him beside the boat, half out of water with my hook, fast in a corner of his mouth. He didn't fight. He hadn't fought at all. He hung a grunting weight, battered and venerable and homely. Here and there, his brown skin hung in strips like ancient wallpaper, and its patterns of darker brown was like wallpaper, shapes like full-blown roses, stained and lost through age. He was speckled with barnacles, fine rosettes of lime, and infested with tiny white sea lice, and underneath 2 or 3 rags of green weed hung down. While his gills were breathing in the terrible oxygen, the frightening gills, fresh and crisp with blood that can cut so badly. I thought of the coarse white flesh packed in like feathers, the big bones and the little bones, the dramatic reds and blacks of his shining entrails, and the pink swim bladder like a big peony. I looked into his eyes, which were far larger than mine, but shallower and yellowed, the irises backed and packed with tarnished tinfoil, seen through the lenses of old, scratched isinglass. They shifted a little, but not to return my stare. It was more like the tipping of an object toward the light. I admired his sullen face, the mechanism of his jaw, and then I saw that from his lower lip, if you could call it a lip, grim, wet, and weapon-like, hung 5 old pieces of fish line, or 4 and a wire leader with the swivel still attached, with all their 5 big hooks grown firmly in his mouth, a green line frayed at the end where he broke it, 2 heavier lines, and a fine black thread, still crimped from the stain, still crimped from the strain and snap when it broke and he got away. Like metals with their ribbons frayed and wavering, a 5-haired beard of wisdom trailing from his aching jaw. I stared and stared, and victory filled up the little rented boat from the pool of bilge where oil had spread a rainbow around the rusted engine. To the bailer rusted orange, the sun-cracked thwarts, the oarlocks on their strings, the gunnels, until everything was rainbow, rainbow, rainbow. And I let the fish go. Whether it's climbing trees, burrowing underground, diving into the depths of the ocean, or soaring through the skies, animals have evolved to navigate and explore environments that would be challenging, if not impossible, for humans to reach. Understanding and appreciating these unique abilities not only enriches our knowledge of the natural world, but also our work as writers.
Thank you for that fabulous reading of The Fish, one of my favorite poems ever. 4, exploring different ways of thinking. The dynamics of a pack, the murmuration of a flock of starlings, the migration of butterflies, a school of anadromous fish returning upstream to spawn, all present opportunities to explore collective rather than individual minds. Returning to Frank Herbert's The Green Brain, in that story, the humans have used toxic chemicals to clear insects from a green zone for human habitation. Antonio Raposo Tavares walks out of the insect-infested red zone to deliver a message to humans: stop killing the planet. But Tavares is not a man. He's a hive of insects evolved by necessity to work together like separate cells of a body. While humans pride ourselves on our supposedly unique ability to reason, we abandon our logic in favor of emotions like greed, longing, and comfort, and thus destroy our planet. But any insect with a brain the size of a grain of sand can see that destroying your environment is illogical and counterproductive. By using a communal way of thinking, so different than the individualism which drives humans in Western society, Herbert makes an impassioned plea to the human race to get its act together. In my poem, Casita of the Bees, I embarked on a poetical attempt to invoke the hive consciousness, albeit on a simpler scale than Frank Herbert did. The poem itself is a form uncommon in Western literary tradition, that of the Arabic casita. The tight constructions of the casita form contrast to the highly individualized, unconstrained realm of modern free verse poetry. In that way, the form mirrors and enhances the hive mind narrative of a we chasing diminishing stores of pollen in a world increasingly paved over with tarmac and concrete. Here's a brief excerpt from that casita. We hive inside the basswood tree. Our hive is many, we are bee. At dawn we fly where yester sun had shone over the pollen sea. We fly seeking the flower's gold where waggle dance has guided we. Blooms that hold rich amber sheen to feed us, worker droning queen, to keep us through the winter cold, safe in our hive, sipping honey. In Watership Down, Richard Adams brilliantly captures rabbits' inability to think and function as a coordinated unit. Every time they move across country or down a hill, they run in different directions, scattering about, lagging behind, zooming ahead. Adams never comes out and tells us about rabbits' view of community, which doesn't include marching in lockstep, but he does show us repeatedly. Adams also shows us rabbits' different way of knowing. The world looks different to rabbits because they pay attention to different elements than humans would. This from Watership Down. Hazel reached the hedge, crossed a narrow turf verge on the other side, and found himself looking straight down a long, shadowy aisle between two rows of beans. The earth was soft and crumbling, with a scattering of the weeds that are found in cultivated fields, fumitory, charlock, pimpernel, and mayweed, all growing in the green gloom under the bean leaves. As the plants moved in the breeze, the sunlight dappled and speckled back and forth over the brown soil, the white pebbles, and the weeds.
Cindy, thank you. The tintinnabulation of your lines and the reading of your lines. Again, thank you. 5, insert a sense of whimsy or wonder. Imagine a new character introduced to Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh and all of the characters in the 100-Acre Wood. Imagine its name is Squirrel. An excellent and whimsical example poem in The Mountain and the Squirrel by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And here is that poem, The Mountain and the Squirrel. The mountain and the squirrel had a quarrel, and the former called the latter a little prig. Bun replied, You are doubtless very big, but all sorts of things and weather must be taken in together to make up a year and a sphere, and I think it no disgrace to occupy my place. If I'm not so large as you are not so small as I, and not half so spry. I'll not deny you make a very pretty squirrel track. Talents differ, all is well and wisely put. If I cannot carry forests on my back, neither can you crack a nut. As a playful squirrel in a majestic oak tree, the world is my whimsical playground. Humans long to experience the magic I see and feel. Each day is filled with daring adventures, leaping gracefully from branch to branch. The foliage whispers ancient wisdom and secrets, inviting exploration. From above, I witness a colorful world with the sun painting the sky and the moon guiding my nocturnal escapades. Mysterious creatures cross my path, from wise owls to delicate butterflies and mischievous raccoons. From my vantage point high above, I witness the world unfold in a kaleidoscope of colors and emotions. The sun casts its golden rays upon the earth, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange during the twilight hours. The moon, a glowing orb of mystery, illuminates the night sky, guiding my nocturnal escapades. Stars twinkle like tiny diamonds, winking at me from afar, as if sharing their celestial secrets. Scents fill the air, a symphony of fragrance from blooming flowers to damp soil. Oh, if only humans could embrace this magic. Shedding worries and immersing in nature's whimsy would bring childlike joy. But it is not just the visual wonders that captivate my senses. The scents that fill the air are an olfactory symphony that tickles my nose and ignites my imagination. The sweet fragrance of blooming flowers intermingles with the earthy aroma of damp soil after a rainstorm. The scent of pine needles and the crispness of autumn leaves evoke memories of cozy nests and bountiful harvests. So, dear humans, look up, let your imagination soar, and embrace the enchantment of the natural world. Join me in a realm where whimsy and wonder reign supreme. Writers, consider adding an animal persona to your stories and discover where it leads.
Thanks, Paul. I'm watching the squirrels leaping all over the treetops out my window as you're reading that, and it's perfect. It's like they're talking to me. 6, enhance awareness of and concern for environmental degradation. Climate change, microplastics, and mass extinction are the global stories of our time, fueled by human territorial expansion, material culture, and consumption of petroleum. While books and poems have not yet successfully counteracted this human drive to self-destruction, poets and fiction authors reach a more diverse audience than the nonfiction doom and gloom books, which tend to preach to the converted. Telling the story from an animal perspective has the power to alter readers' worldview in ways that human stories may not. For example, here is Felix Salten's Bambi, the young deer in the dark original novels, not the Disney version, experiencing the death of a friend after a hunting party. He felt a veil around his eyes. It had been thrown over him by the fear of the thunderclaps booming all around him. He was unable to think, unable to see. He ran. The clearing was now behind him. From behind him came another shout, another sharp thunderclap, and in the twigs above there was a very brief rattling like the first spray of hailstones. In front of him, somebody was struggling to get to her feet. It was the hare's wife. "Do you think you could give me a little help?" she said. Bambi looked at her and was shocked. Her rear legs dragged lifeless through the snow, which was red and beginning to melt from the warm blood that dropped from her. She said once again, "Do you think you could give me a little help?" She spoke as if she were perfectly all right, relaxed, almost gay. "I don't know what's happened to me," she continued. "It's certainly not anything important, but at the moment I can't walk." As she spoke, she sank down onto her side, and she was dead. The animal persona can also bear witness to the destruction of the human environment. Talia Lakshmi Kalori's extraordinary book, What We Fed to the Manticore, is a collection of 9 short stories, each told from an animal perspective. The whimsical narrator in her short story, The Good Donkey, is a donkey in Gaza whose human has painted him like a zebra to amuse the children. The donkey describes war, speaking of prior events in Gaza, but particularly prescient given current events. Let me tell you a thing about tragedy. At first, every one of the missiles is shocking. You don't know if you will survive, if you can lose anyone else without losing yourself. And then it becomes ordinary. The sound is muffled. The news of the dead comes to you as if from a great distance and hovers around you like a swarm of flies. Until, of course, it comes for you. And then everything changes. Everything changes. Everything changes. Animals are inherently nonpartisan and yet are at the forefront of the suffering and death that human actions cause. By using an animal persona, whether to view war or environmental degradation, a writer can inject an experiential perspective while simultaneously being out of the human fray, the politics and emotions, which can make such stories difficult to tell. I urge you to try writing a traumatic scene, a difficult scene, a scene of devastation from an animal perspective and see how it feels to you and how it resonates with some of your trusted readers.
Outstanding examples. Thank you, Cindy. 7, invoke the dark or the divine. As a nocturnal thing lurking in the cracks, the world through the eyes of a vulture or a rodent or a cat is a realm of darkness and mystery. If you are in your writing a cat, you become a symbol of superstition, mythology, and fear, invoking a sense of foreboding and darkness that lingers in the air. Prepare to have your characters venture into the depths of this eerie existence where the macabre and the unknown collide. A stellar example of a dark animal persona poem is Vultures by Chinua Achebe. Here is Vultures. In the grayness and drizzle of one despondent dawn, unstirred by harbingers of sunbreak, a vulture, perching high on broken bones of a dead tree, nestled close to his mate, his smooth, bashed-in head, a pebble on a stem rooted in a dump of gross feathers, inclined affectionately to hers. Yesterday, they picked the eyes of a swollen corpse in a waterlogged trench and ate the things in its bowel. Full gorged, they chose their roost, keeping the hollowed remnant in easy range of cold, telescopic eyes. Strange, indeed, how love in other ways so particular will pick a corner in that charnel house, tidy it, and coil up there, perhaps even fall asleep, her face turned to the wall. Thus the commandant at Belsen camp, going home for the day with fumes of human roast clinging rebelliously to his hairy nostrils, will stop at the wayside sweet shop and pick up a chocolate for his tender offspring waiting at home for daddy's return. Praise bounteous providence, if you will, that grants even an ochre a tiny glowworm tenderness encapsulated in icy caverns of a cruel heart, or else despair. For in the very germ of that kindred love is lodged the perpetuity of evil. Dear fellow humans, do not fear the darkness that surrounds us, for it is part of nature's intricate tapestry. Embrace the shadows and allow your imagination to wander into the realms of the unknown. It is within the dark that true introspection and self-discovery can be found. Just as cats navigate the night with confidence, let your fears guide you towards a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. So venture forth into the darkness, dear humans, and let perspective of a black cat or a possum awaken the dormant shadows within your soul. Embrace the macabre and the mysterious, for it is in these moments that the true essence of life reveals itself. And if you ever catch a glimpse of a black cat slinking through the night, know that there, a guardian in the shadows, is inviting you to explore the dark corners of your own existence. As Carl Sandburg wrote, the fog comes on, little cat feet, animalize the dark and plumb new depths forevermore.
I love that black cat in the night inspiring my writing. Okay, so now that we've shared these 7 powers and pleasures of writing from an animal perspective, we're going to look at 3 ways of presenting the animal narrative. The first and most immersive of these is to write in first person as an animal, that is, narrate through the animal's eyes. The second is to use a close third person point of view, focus on a particular animal in the same way as you would a human character, human main character in your close third person narration. And the last is to merge human and animal perspectives, either by writing as a human in an animal body or an animal in a human body, or having your human character ponder, what if I were that animal?
The animalized first person. An immaculate example of first person animal persona poetry is Pig Song by Margaret Atwood. This work of art speaks volumes about late stage hypercapitalism and the current American condition by speaking as a swine. So here is Pig Song by Margaret Atwood. This is what you changed me to. A gray pink vegetable with slug eyes, buttock incarnate, spreading like a slow turnip. A skin you stuff so you may feed in your turn, a slinking wart of flesh, a large tuber of blood which munches and bloats. Very well then. Meanwhile, I have the sky, which is only half caged. I have my weed corners. I keep myself busy singing my song of roots and noses, my song of dung. Madam, this song offends you. These grunts, which you find oppressively sexual, mistaking simple greed for lust. I am yours. If you feed me garbage, I will sing a song of garbage. This is a hymn.
Margaret Atwood is just amazing. So, the close third person point of view in an animal perspective. My work in progress, Leeds Point, a Gothic horror novel in sonnet verse, utilizes animal points of view to see and overhear the scenes which can't include my first person protagonist narrator. All the antagonist scenes are narrated in close third person from an animal perspective, such as this sonnet from a scene which shares a conversation between the bad guy, Captain Talmadge, and his right-hand man, Silas. It uses rabbit as a narrative lens to allow me to further capitalize on the elements of fear, horror, and victimization. Rabbit, nestled in the pure foundation of the frighteningly leaning pointed quill, is listening to a conversation between 2 men over their breakfast swill. Rabbit's nose flares and twitches, She feels ill, smelling her mate stewing in the kitchen over her head. Her keen intuition fears this will be her fate. Men like to kill, and rabbits are about their favorite game. She had not known him well, not his soul name or whether he liked white clover best. Still, their fine, brief coupling has produced 5 young, which she's now stroking with her pink tongue, while Talmadge and his agent eat their fill.
Next, what if the animal-human merger? Taking on the as-if point of view and approach to animal persona is perfectly encapsulated by the ever-engaging poet Ocean Vuong and his poem, The Bull. So here is The Bull by Ocean Vuong. He stood alone in my backyard, so dark the night purpled around him. I had no choice. I opened the door and stepped out. Wind in the branches, he watched me. His eyes kerosene blue. What do you want? I asked, forgetting I had no language. He kept breathing to stay alive. But I was a boy then, which meant I was a murderer of my childhood. And like all murderers, my God was stillness. My God, he was still there. He looked like something prayed for by a priest with no mouth. The green-blue lamp swirled in its socket. I didn't want him. I didn't want him to be beautiful, but needed beauty to be more than hurt, gentle enough to hold. So I reached for him. I reached not the bull, but the depth, not an answer, but an entrance, the shape of an animal, like me.
So, if you're not quite ready to write a final piece through an animal's eyes, animalizing is still a great writing exercise. We both encourage you to experiment and engage with animalized writing for useful pleasure. Animalizing can overcome writer's block, which Paul had mentioned before can be a scary thing. Stuck on a scene in fiction, play around with writing notes about what the spider on the ceiling or the owl in the tree might be seeing or hearing. Stuck on a line in poetry, write down what that spider or owl might say and use that as a placeholder. Thinking like an animal helps you to expand the use of senses other than human sight in your writing. Go back through your manuscript and think about what a spider, a mouse, or an owl might be seeing, hearing, smelling, and feeling in each scene. Consider the impact of your story on nearby animals, which helps you to incorporate ecological values in your writing. No matter how you do it, animalizing your writing opens new narrative doors, and the animal persona has the power to help you see yourself as a more engaged human writer.
Cindy, I recall in Rome the trees being full of those green parrots.
Parrot.
And I wonder now what they would have thought of our manic sightseeing and word and line collecting as we ran around with our journals. In conclusion, embracing the animal perspective opens up a world of possibilities and enriches both the writer and the reader. As we conclude this lecture, this call to animal arms, we encourage you to step forward into the dewy meadow of the blank page and embrace the animal perspective. Let the examples and suggestions we have provided inspire you to experiment and discover new paths of creativity, whether slinking along a river, skittering over a desert dune, or soaring through an endless sky. Writing from an animal's point of view invites us to expand our horizons and connect with the natural world in a profound and meaningful way. So go forth and let your words take flight, guided by the rich and divine perspectives of the animal kingdom.
A call to animal arms, indeed. So we both thank you for letting us share this time and our passion for animalized persona in prose and poetry with you. We also extend our heartfelt gratitude to our advisors, Ellen Lesser and Leslie Ullman, for their patience, wisdom, and guidance as we developed this lecture. And they did, in fact, imbue us with heaps of patience, wisdom, and guidance as we pursued this. We'd love to see what animalized writing you all come up with, so we've included our contact information here and hope if our talk inspired you, you'll send along your animalized writing to us. Thanks again.